Ah, I'm tired of traveling, or fighting superstition in its many manifestations. Even though it was me who chose to debunk folklore and mysticism. Little did I know I'd end up being labelled as Patrick Galloway, the man with endless occult knowledge. Before I knew it, people all over the world paid me to investigate all kinds of weird things. As long as they paid me, I'd look into it. Funny thing though, the more I saw, the more I believe there are forces beyond our control. Creatures not explainable in any human terms. Things that make me skin crawl. I fled from Ireland and hung around Paris and London with no real purpose till the Great War started. I joined a special unit whose job it was to squelch the fears of the superstitious farm boys who made up the fighting ranks. The Tresanti were the biggest pains. Me commanding officer, Jeremiah Covenant, led our unit on the hunt for their camp. We were ambushed. They came streaming out of the woods, waving swords and howling like banshees. I saw their leader holding a strange stone over his head, yelling weird words in a strange tongue. And just when I was gonna pull the trigger, he glared right at me. A bright green flash came from his hand, and it bowled me over as my gun went off. I woke up in a hospital bed with severe burns. They told me Jeremiah and the unit had gone on without me, but he'd given me the shaman stone to keep. I hadn't given any of this much thought until I came back here to find this letter that Jeremiah wrote me almost 6 months ago, asking me to come back to Ireland and help him out. This is not something I'm dying to do, for it may mean the death of me. He saved my life though, so I owe it to him. Just hope it's not too late.
Hello, and welcome to episode 15 of A Pile of Shame, the Backlog Logs, the GOG chapters. In today's episode, let's take a look at Undying, Clive Barker's Undying to be precise. The Undying Renewal one-click mod on GOG to be very exact. This is a game I grew up playing the demo for, and the atmosphere and eerie gameplay made my skin crawl back then. But back then, I was a child. Today as an adult, I was excited and had goosebumps. It's different somehow. This game is special. This game sat on the pile for 10 years, longer if we count the years of not buying it after playing the demo. I got this game in June of 2016 and finally played it in February of 2026. Developed by Westlake and DreamWorks Interactive, this game was published by Aspire Media and EA ruins everything now. It was originally released in 2001 for PC using the very first Unreal Engine. It is a fine game and a very cool game with a plethora of mechanics that would become standard for first-person shooters over the years. So let's take a look at Clive Barker's Undying Renewal. This is a game that initially left me wondering what the hell is going on. I did play it before, not only in the demo version, but when I bought it, I did play it for a couple of hours, only to drop it later at the first sign of difficulty. There's a lesson to be learned here about buying games because you are unable to finish a previous one. However, this time I played the mod that makes the game more accessible, easier to run on modern systems, and all the difficulties went away. Now most of the mechanics of the game, as far as I can remember, are unchanged in the Renewal mod, with a menu that allows us to change a few things, such as item behavior or camera behavior, but overall the changelog of the mod does not say anything about the core mechanics of control and combat, so everything I say in this video is, to my knowledge, applicable to the original release of the game. The game feels as it did back then, eerie, makes my skin crawl. The atmosphere is amazing from beginning to end, though the scares start losing their effectiveness as the game goes on. The first hours of the game have the best scares, jump scares, and atmosphere in setting things. It really feels like it's a horror game, like they aren't made anymore. The story of the game is clear-cut and simple to follow, although you can miss a few pieces of information that add depth to the characters involved. I myself missed a note that reinforced the idea that one of the villains of the game is more of a victim. The story in this game is thick and satisfying to follow. You control Patrick Galloway, an Irish outcast who fought in World War I and was wounded by a mystical shaman, but survived. After the war, Patrick traveled around the world trying to disprove occult happenings, which is ironic given the nature of the game. His commanding officer during the war asks for his help with a family matter, and Patrick is quick to answer, seeing as how it was Jeremiah Covenant, his commanding officer, and the eldest of 5 children, who saved his life during the war. This takes us on a horror adventure to uncover the mysteries surrounding the Covenant family and an alleged curse around them. The story is well presented in cutscenes and journal entries which add depth to characters, locations, weapons, and spells. It's very well paced and delivered in a timely manner. The gameplay itself is very good. I remember it being on par with the games of its time, and playing it now still feels very good. The original layout of the keyboard is not the best, but a quick rebind made things much easier. Even though I know I said last time, I don't do rebinds, but sometimes I do. Controls are not beyond what is accepted now, with a few changes thanks to the Renewal mod. First, you have the weapons and spells that can be cast, and while not the first to add that mechanic of weapon and spell, this is the only game, to my knowledge, that makes your character left-handed to keep the mouse use sensical. After all, you click the left button to use your left hand, and the right button to use your right hand. So, you shoot weapons with the left mouse and spells with the right mouse. And in a very nice touch, the HUD, the heads-up display, also shows ammo, weapons, and spells on the side that is related to it. So your ammo count and weapon type is on the left side of the screen, while the spells are on the lower right side of the screen. So your ammo count and weapon type is on the lower left side of the HUD, while your spells are on the lower right side of the screen. At the lower middle side of the screen are your health and mana counters. You also have items to manage, and here is where Undying should have gotten more credit for its mechanics. I cannot remember a game before this one that has the item wheel to choose everything from. You hold a button to open the weapons wheel, another button to open the spells wheel, and a third button to open the items wheel, which nowadays is considered the norm, but back in 2001? I cannot remember another game doing that. One note though is that originally the wheel opened and the action went ongoing, but on the Renewal mod they added a slowdown effect to give you time to properly choose your weapons without having the madness around kill you instantly. But it was only after a long time playing that I noticed a few things, such as favorite spells and weapons. You can quick swap between two weapons or two spells by first opening the wheel, hovering the mouse over the weapon or spell, and right-clicking it. That tags the weapon or spell as a favorite. You can have two of each, and a quick press of the wheel button swaps between your favorite spells and weapons. I'm ashamed to say that I only figured it out by accident, because I right-clicked the spell at a certain point and noticed that there was this kind of bluish background on it, and then I went on to check the manual to find out about the favorite system. It ended up saving a lot of time also because there are no buttons assigned to specific weapons on the keyboard. You can set them if you want, but by default 1 and 2 scroll through weapons and 3 and 4 scroll through spells. You can also scroll through the weapons using the mouse wheel. So you left-click to shoot, right-click to cast spells, and press keys to open selection wheels. Items can be used with Enter or G, and you can also scroll through them. There are a few items that you find throughout the game, such as medicine bags, dynamite, alternate ammo for your revolver and shotgun, and 2 limited use items, the Ethereal Trap, of which I did not find a single one during my first playthrough, and the Empowering Stones, that can improve your spells. And I am ashamed to say that I held on to these stones for longer than I should have. When you have a spell selected, you can see there is a golden star above its icon, and if you pull out the Gilsvar Stone, a mystical amulet weapon, an extra green star appears above the spell icon, meaning the Gilsvar Stone powers up the spell. So I surmised there must be a way to improve your spells. But it was only at the point where I was fighting the first boss that I realized the empowering stones I had been hoarding all along were actually the things that powered up my spells permanently. I felt like an idiot for going through the first portion of the game with a self-imposed, completely unaware handicap. What an idiot. Throughout the game you collect more weapons, mostly mystical in nature, and spells that are not always used more than a few times, such as the spell. I used it once out of necessity, and it's nice they put it on the critical path to show how to use it. But after that, you don't really need to use it to face any other particular challenges. It's a wasted opportunity, but I did try using it in other situations, to little to no avail. Often resulted in my death, so it's a missed opportunity. You do use it against some effects from an enemy, but that's not enough in my opinion. The voice acting in this game serves its purpose most of the time. The main characters have distinct flavors and show off a nice range, but the secondary NPCs such as servants and groundskeepers have some of the worst deliveries I have heard in PC gaming. Mind you, I don't really pay attention to the quality of deliveries in games, so I have a low bar for delivery. So, yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Anyways, the sound of the game is amazing. It has to be. Many times over, as you navigate the Covenant Manor and the nearby places, a whispering voice tells you to see, look around you, or scry now, meaning you have to activate the scry spell to see hidden things, such as invisible enemies or events in the past. Sometimes it reveals the real faces of characters, but it's also used to light up enemies and the very dark environment. The music is also a very good fit for the action. The graphics, although improved by the mod, are still very dated and very jagged and pointy, but they're good enough to give the desired effect and the atmosphere to the game. It's good indoors, but sometimes very bad outdoors. There is a realm of dreams with weird geometry and spectral tones that is very well served by the older graphics, so this is a point in favor of the older models. However, this is a complicated game and it has its bullshit cryptic moments that I could do without. Sometimes it was my own fault for not exploring enough, but many other times, especially in the boss fights, it was just annoying and very frustrating. If you ever play this game, I'll explain something the game doesn't explicitly tell you. At a certain point early in the game, you travel through time to grab a weapon, a scythe, and that is the only weapon that can kill the bosses. So you will want to keep that in mind while playing. But even then, there was at least one more cryptic bull that pissed me off. But I wasted no time in searching for a walkthrough to help me clarify on how to beat the second boss. After that, it becomes easier, except for the last boss. It was kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. The game ends on a characteristic Clive Barker note of, "This horror is over." But there are more horrors awaiting in the horizon, which I do appreciate. Overall, at the end of the day, I very much enjoyed playing this game through to the end, finally. It was cryptic in some points, it did have some bullshit moments, but overall it was a fine adventure that ramps up the action, ramps down the horror, but the challenge is ever present. The graphics are nice enough, the controls are easy to learn and memorize, and the atmosphere is great. Do try it if you like first-person shooters and horror games. It's well worth the money. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Those beasts were after me.
What in God's name were those things?
They're called howlers. And while I've never seen one before tonight, I've heard of them for years.
Those weren't natural, my friend. We're fighting more than superstitions here.
Perhaps I was being naive not to tell you, but there might be something more sinister at work here. When I was a boy...